This message is issued by the Emergency Coordination Center. Please listen closely and follow the instructions. This is not a drill. We are issuing an urgent advisory regarding unusual canine behavior patterns occurring during tonight's full moon cycle across the tri-state area. Over the past 48 hours, our dispatch centers have received over 300 reports of dogs exhibiting unprecedented behavioral anomalies. These incidents appear to be concentrated during the current full moon phase, with the lunar surface exhibiting unusual properties that require immediate safety precautions. The moonlight itself is registering elevated thermal readings and has been reported to cause skin irritation upon direct contact. We strongly advise all residents to avoid prolonged exposure to moonlight and to apply sunscreen if outdoor activity is necessary. The reports began filtering in around 9:15 p.m. on Tuesday evening, starting with isolated calls from pet owners across suburban neighborhoods. Initially, these seemed like routine animal control inquiries, but the pattern that emerged has prompted this emergency broadcast. What we're seeing defies conventional animal behavior, and the consistency of reports suggests a phenomenon that requires your immediate attention and cooperation. The first documented incident occurred at a residence on Maple Street in Riverside. A woman called our hotline in distress, reporting that her normally quiet golden retriever had begun what she described as crying like a human child. The dog, according to the owner, had suddenly frozen mid-walk in the backyard, staring directly at the full moon for several minutes before breaking into these uncharacteristic vocalizations. When she approached the animal, she noticed its fur appeared to have an unusual luminescent quality under the moonlight, almost like it was glowing from within. A couple on Granger Hill reported a similar incident around midnight that same evening. Their German Shepherd, typically calm and well-behaved, had positioned itself at the front door and begun barking frantically at something outside. The husband said the dog's behavior was so intense and focused that he initially thought there might be an intruder. When he looked outside, he saw nothing unusual, but the dog continued its agitated state for hours. The wife described the animal's eyes as having an otherworldly quality, reflecting the moonlight in a way she'd never seen before. She said it looked at her like it was trying to communicate something urgent, something she couldn't understand. Later that night, more calls came in from various neighborhoods. A family in Oak Ridge described their beagle suddenly becoming transfixed by their living room window, staring out at the moon-soaked yard while emitting low, mournful sounds. The children were frightened, saying their pet was acting like it could see something terrible that they couldn't. The father noticed that other animals in the neighborhood seemed to be reacting with fear to dogs exhibiting these behaviors, with cats hiding and birds falling silent. One of the most disturbing reports came from a household on Elm Street, where a young girl witnessed something that has since been corroborated by multiple similar accounts. She had been sitting on the stairs when her family's border collie began barking frantically at the front door around 2 a.m. The dog's behavior was so intense that it woke the entire household. The girl watched as her father went to investigate, but before he could reach the door, there was a knock. When he opened it, a man was standing there demanding money her father apparently owed. The situation escalated quickly, and within minutes, the girl's father was dead. The dog had somehow known what was coming. In another case, a man in Pine Hollow noticed his usually docile Labrador had begun exhibiting what he described as prophetic distress. The dog would position itself at specific locations throughout the house, crying and attempting to physically block the man from going to certain areas. Initially dismissing this as attention-seeking behavior, the owner ignored the warnings. The next morning, he was found dead in his garage, apparently having gone there during the night despite his pet's attempts to prevent him. Neighbors reported hearing the dog's cries throughout the evening, describing the sound as almost human in its desperation. Emergency responders have documented cases where dogs appeared to be experiencing visions of events that would later unfold exactly as their behaviors seemed to predict. A dispatcher in the central office told us that she's been handling calls for over a decade, but nothing prepared her for the reports coming in during this full moon cycle. She described receiving calls from pet owners whose dogs were exhibiting behaviors that seemed to anticipate their owners' deaths with disturbing accuracy. Dr. Sarah Chen, who's been treating animals for 15 years, told us that the behaviors she's observing completely contradict everything she knows about canine psychology. She examined several of the affected dogs and found them to be physically healthy, but their neurological responses were unlike anything in veterinary literature. The animals appeared to be experiencing intense stress responses to stimuli that weren't visible to human observers. She noted that under the current moonlight conditions, these dogs exhibit a distinctive luminescent quality that she's never encountered in her practice. Animal behaviorist Dr. Marcus Rodriguez observed that the affected dogs seem to be operating on a level of awareness that transcends normal animal cognition. He described watching one dog repeatedly attempt to lead its owner away from a specific intersection, where the owner would later be fatally struck by a vehicle. The dog's behavior suggested it was seeing events from the human's perspective, experiencing the tragedy before it occurred and desperately trying to prevent it. Based on our accumulated reports, we have identified these common stages that affected dogs progress through. Stage 1 involves sudden transfixation, where the animal becomes completely still and focuses intently on the moon or specific locations. During this phase, the dog may remain motionless for extended periods, seemingly receiving information that humans cannot perceive. Their eyes often develop an unusual reflective quality, and their fur begins to exhibit the characteristic glow under moonlight. Stage 2 manifests as urgent communication attempts. The dogs begin crying, barking, or making vocalizations that are uncharacteristic for their breed or personality. Owners consistently report that these sounds seem almost human in their emotional intensity. The animals may attempt to physically guide their owners away from specific locations, doors, or areas of the house. They may refuse to leave their owner's side or position themselves as physical barriers between their humans and certain spaces. Stage 3 escalates to prophetic distress, where the dog's behavior becomes increasingly frantic and focused on preventing a specific outcome. The animals may exhibit behaviors such as blocking doorways, hiding car keys, or attempting to physically restrain their owners. During this stage, the luminescent quality becomes more pronounced, and other animals in the vicinity show signs of extreme agitation or fear when near the affected dog. Stage 4 represents the critical intervention window. Dogs in this stage demonstrate an almost supernatural understanding of timing and location. They may guide their owners to specific safe locations, or become inconsolable when their warnings are ignored. The visions they're experiencing appear to be from their owner's perspective, allowing them to see the approaching danger with disturbing clarity. The final stage occurs when the predicted event unfolds, or is successfully prevented. In cases where owners heeded their pets' warnings and avoided the predicted locations or situations, the dogs immediately return to normal behavior, showing visible relief. In cases where the warnings were ignored, the dog's predictions have proven tragically accurate, with deaths occurring within the 24-hour window exactly as the animals seemed to foresee. The consequences of ignoring these warnings have been documented across multiple cases. Owners who dismissed their dog's behavior as normal pet anxiety have faced fatal encounters that their pets had been trying to warn them about. The precision of these predictions is what makes this phenomenon so deeply concerning. In 17 documented cases, pet owners who ignored their dog's warnings died within 24 hours of the initial behavioral changes, exactly as the animals seemed to have foreseen. However, we've also documented successful interventions. Families who paid attention to their pets' warnings and avoided the specific locations or situations their dogs were indicating have survived events that would have been fatal. A woman in Riverside avoided a home invasion by staying at her sister's house after her dog refused to let her enter her own home. The break-in occurred exactly as her pet seemed to have predicted, but she wasn't there to become a victim. The phenomenon appears to create a brief window where fate can be altered, but only for those who understand what their pets are trying to communicate. The The supernatural glow exhibited by affected dogs under the burning moonlight serves as a visual indicator of their enhanced state of awareness. Attempting to restrain or medicate these animals during their warning behaviors has proven ineffective and may actually worsen the situation. We are issuing the following safety instructions for all residents in the tri-state area. First, if your dog begins exhibiting any of the described behaviors, do not dismiss them as normal pet anxiety. Pay close attention to where your dog is trying to lead you away from, or what locations they're trying to prevent you from accessing. Second, avoid direct contact with moonlight tonight, as it has been confirmed to cause skin irritation and thermal burns. Use sunscreen if you must go outside, and limit exposure time. Third, if your dog positions itself as a barrier between you and a specific location, do not attempt to force your way past them. The animals appear to be seeing dangers that you cannot perceive, and their warnings have proven accurate in multiple documented cases. Fourth, remain with your pet and observe their behavior carefully. If they're trying to guide you to a specific location or away from danger, follow their lead. The intervention window appears to be limited to the 24-hour period following the initial behavioral changes. Finally, do not attempt to leave the area if your dog is exhibiting these behaviors. The phenomenon appears to be location-specific, and leaving may not guarantee safety. Instead, work with your pet to understand what they're trying to communicate and adjust your actions accordingly. The scope of this phenomenon continues to expand as more reports arrive. Our emergency coordination teams are working to understand how dogs across the tri-state area are simultaneously experiencing visions of their owners' potential deaths. The burning quality of the moonlight and the supernatural glow exhibited by affected pets suggests this is not a normal behavioral anomaly, but something far more significant. Dispatchers report that the calls are coming in with increasing frequency, and the patterns are becoming more defined. What started as isolated incidents has evolved into a clear supernatural event that defies conventional explanation. The fact that pets can see their owners' deaths from the human's own perspective represents a level of psychic connection that science cannot currently explain. We want to emphasize that this advisory is based on documented cases where pet warnings saved lives. The phenomenon appears to be offering a supernatural intervention opportunity, but only for those who recognize the signs and act on their pet's warnings. The 24-hour window following your dog's initial behavioral changes may be the only chance to alter what they're seeing in their visions. This broadcast will repeat every 15 minutes until the full moon cycle passes. If you are experiencing any of the described phenomena with your pet, do not ignore their behavior. The consequences of dismissing these warnings have proven fatal in multiple documented cases. Pay attention to your dog's attempts to communicate with you tonight. They may be trying to save your life. Remember, when the full moon passes, your pet will have no memory of these events, but you will retain the knowledge of what they tried to tell you. The silence of dogs who have given their warnings and been ignored is the most chilling sound our dispatchers have ever encountered.